Hey Tony, it's Tuesday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, I think I agree with you actually. I think so. One thing I think people have to keep in mind regarding Anakin Skywalker, particularly in Episode 3, is that this is pretty effectively the worst like month and a half of his life, and I think that's something that people have to keep in mind because when I think of some of the worst times in my life, I'm sure I acted very similar. Obviously I didn't murder kids, but I can understand like being very different in that situation when you're dealing when in rough times than you are normally. And I think one of the best examples of this in the Clone Wars is actually the Obi-Wan undercover arc, which is one of my favorite arcs. I think that's a really underrated one because I love I love seeing Obi-Wan pretend to be a bounty hunter. I love seeing the it really personifies how the Jedi have fallen and that they're doing this type of subterfuge that is very against Jedi code and very against Jedi beliefs. And I think like watching how Anakin handles things for the in the first two episodes. I think it's a 4 episode arc if I remember correctly. I haven't watched it in a while, but within the arc, the first episode or two is obviously Obi-Wan dies. They do his funeral, and you see Anakin at that point is so full of rage, and you can see that he wants vengeance. And I think that arc itself really does a good job of showing Anakin at both his strongest and his weakest, because it's well known within the movies and within the show when Anakin is focused, he's an incredible warrior and an incredible Jedi. When he is unfocused or focused on the wrong things, that's when he becomes, Darth Vader, effectively. And so I think that was a really good arc. And so what I want to talk about this week is actually, I want to talk a little bit about Tales of the Underworld. Now, I'm not very far in it. I only watched the first 3 episodes, the first 3 Ventress episodes last night, and I really liked them. I think I'm really excited to watch the Cad Bane episodes. I think those are going to be really, really good. I know you said that you were kind of you were a little underwhelmed because you weren't sure it was necessary, but I actually am excited to see how Cad Bane becomes Cad Bane. And I don't know any spoilers other than obviously Cad Bane survives and becomes the most feared bounty hunter in the galaxy. But I think that's going to be. I feel like that's going to be an interesting story to show how, a kid can turn into this not monster, but this cold-hearted professional. And I will say, like, it makes me sad for some of the arcs that we never got within the Clone Wars. Like, obviously, one that I would love to see, and I really hope they do in Maul Shadow Lord, is the Son of Dathomir arc. 'Cause that's just awesome. I have not read the comic, but I know the story of it. And it's such a good arc. The other one that I really want to see, and I hope we kind of get something like this in a future animated show or in I don't think we're gonna ever do a Book of Boba Fett season 2, but in in another Boba Fett adjacent show, is I really, really, really want to see the confrontation, the duel between Bane and Boba, in which Boba becomes the best bounty hunter in the galaxy over Cad Bane. And it's one I really want to see, and I think that'd be a really cool arc. I'm a little more okay with the Martez sisters arc than I feel most people on the internet are. I think that arc is fine. I think that arc was also 2 episodes too long. I think it was important to see Ahsoka in, not a Jedi and in with civilians, but I think the Martez sisters arc. I mean, there's one episode that literally, effectively from the start to the finish, nothing changes. In which Ahsoka and the sisters are in jail at the beginning of the episode. They try and escape, and at the end of the episode, they're put back in the same cell. And I know that episode was like fun because it's kind of fun to see, Ahsoka and the Pikes fight it out. But when you have such limited amounts of episodes for the final season, now obviously Mandalore arc is excellent, and the Bad Batch arc is also great. But I feel like the couple of those middle episodes of the Martez sisters arc was just not necessary, and I would have so much rather have Son of Dathomir, or the Boba Fett Cad Bane arc. Now, I am I'm excited to see where Star Wars is going to go. Like, I think they announced the name of like the first Rey movie. I think it's The Lost Order, I think is what it's called. And I know it was just like announced today, and I think if they can do with that that show or movie with what they did with the old Legends continuum, when you see Luke rebuild the Order, I think that can actually make up for a lot of the downfalls of the sequel trilogy. Now, there are many issues with the sequel trilogy that have been well discussed on all sorts of internet videos, all sorts of comment boards, all sorts of articles, etc., etc. But I think if you can get a good like sequel movie to the sequel series, or to watch Rey build up a new Jedi Order, I think that actually has a lot of promise, and I hope it turns out well. I'm really excited for Shadowlord. I think that's going to be really cool. I'm hoping that we get Kira back from Solo, because they gave us some nice tantalizing information at the end of Solo of like, oh, what's going to happen with Kira going forward. So I hope that's going to I hope it's kind of a combination of both Son of Dathomir and future Crimson Dawn. I believe that's the name of I haven't watched Solo in a long time, but I believe it's the Crimson Dawn. But we'll see what happens. So Tony, I guess my question for you is, what upcoming Star Wars project is your favorite? Tony, I'll see you on Friday. Later.